Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're exploring a really unsettling topic, one that many people are hearing more about, gang stalking.
It's certainly a term that evokes a lot.
Yeah, right. So our mission today is to, well, take a deep dive into an audio source we have. It's from someone who actually identifies as a targeted individual. We're going to look at their perspective on this whole phenomenon, the methods they claim are used, and what they think it all means.
And it's important, as you said, we're here to unpack the claims of the source. We're not endorsing them, just exploring what this individual is saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Impartially examining the perspective presented.
And that perspective describes what they allege is a methodical psychological assault. We'll be getting into how they claim it's done, not just secretly, but sometimes apparently right out in the open, in plain sight.
Okay, so let's start where the source starts. They define gang stalking as a kind of post-2000 COINTELPRO.
COINTELPRO, for anyone maybe not familiar, was that series of covert FBI projects back in the mid-20th century, targeting domestic groups.
Right. And the source draws a pretty stark comparison, calling this alleged modern version America's version of the old Stasi program.
The East German secret police.
Yeah.
Known for that massive citizen surveillance network. It's a heavy comparison.
It really is.
And according to the person in our source, this alleged program is, in their words, driven by hate, plain and simple. They claim it's methodically designed to psychologically attack a targeted individual, a TIN, every facet.
Wow, every facet. They call it an all-out assault on one's existence. Sounds incredibly personal.
Deeply personal, yes.
Yeah.
And supposedly executed to near perfection, which, brings up this central question the source really pushes.
Which is,
if this kind of community harassment, as they call it, is happening, how is it possible that people who aren't targets, well, how are they not aware of it?
that's the core puzzle, isn't it? How could something like this operate unseen? The source suggests the answers in the methods and the perpetrator.
Exactly. The methodology is key to their explanation. Let's get into that. So, according to the source, a primary tool they claim is used is something called sensitization.
Sensitization. Okay,
Yeah.
what does that mean in this context?
It's described as a clever design, sort of engineered, they claim, to attack the victim while they're in the same environment as everyone else, the non-victims. The goal is to make everyday things, sights, maybe sounds, trigger a specific uncomfortable reaction just in the target.
Okay, so they give examples, right? What kind of things are we talking about?
They do. The speaker claims they've been sensitized to cars with bicycles on them or horse trailers.
Okay, seems pretty random.
Well, that's the point, I think.
Yeah.
It sounds mundane, but the source says after seeing these things daily, over months, maybe years, they become triggers.
Ah, I see. What else?
They also mention out-of-state license plates, specifically Florida and more recently Ohio plates.
No.
Also local agency vehicles and even just the color red.
Just the color red. Wow.
Yeah. So the effect, as they describe it, is really distinct. If you're sensitized, seeing one of these things puts you on high alert, they say.
Right. You'd feel anxious, watched maybe.
Presumably. But someone else, a non-sensitized person, standing right there, seeing the exact same car, the same color.
They'd have no reaction at all. That's what the source claimed.
Exactly. And that's their explanation for how this alleged harassment stays hidden from the general public, even if it's happening all around. It's about manipulating perception through learned associations.
Okay, that's quite a concept. So, if the methods are designed to be invisible like that, how does someone supposedly end up being targeted in the first place?
Right, the next logical question. The source talks about getting on a kind of watch list. They bring up what they claim is an FBI list. 72 behaviors or characteristics that supposedly mark someone as a potential domestic terrorist.
72. What kind of behaviors are on that list, according to the source?
Well, the examples given are things like being anti-abortion or anti-nuclear, or even very broadly, just wanting to make the world a better place.
Wanting to make the world better makes you a potential terrorist.
Yeah.
That seems incredibly broad.
That's precisely the source's point. They assert the list is cleverly designed to include anyone and everyone. Basically, that anyone could be labeled a homeland threat.
And they see that broadness as a huge problem, enabling this kind of targeting.
Yes, a fundamental issue, they claim.
And once someone gets that alleged label, what happens next? The source mentions these fusion centers.
Officially, fusion centers exist to help agencies share info. Counterterrorism, crime fighting, standard procedure on the surface.
But the source claims something else is going on.
They allege a much more, sinister operation. That data, emails, phone calls, medical records, what you buy, is harvested, compared, dissected and fused,
Huh.
specifically for targeted individuals. And they name agencies like the CIA, DHS, FBI as being involved in this data fusion process at these centers.
So it's not just about counterterrorism, according to this source.
No, they claim the real problem is the ease of manipulation and the abuse of the agenda, that the system itself is vulnerable to misuse.
Okay. And they mentioned an article, right, to back this up.
Yes. They reference an Examiner article from September 2011 quite heavily.
What points do they pull from that?
Okay, several key things, according to the source's interpretation. First, they claim FBI documents showed 8,000 Americans, identified as TIs, were on a secret watch list back then, though the source suggests the real number now could be more like 100,000. That's their estimate.
A huge jump. What else from the article?
They point to a notice supposedly sent to counterterrorism officers in December 2010. It apparently said, in all caps, "Do not advise the subject that they may be on a terrorist watch list."
So people wouldn't even know they're on this list.
That's the claim. And third, they allege the threshold for getting targeted is incredibly low, like someone just being mad at you or calling your name into a fusion center.
Or even a jilted lover. That's enough.
That's what the source claims. The article implies that these are sufficient enough to be targeted.
Wow.
And maybe the most disturbing claim they make, based on their reading, is that it allegedly only takes two people, just two people reporting someone.
Two people, that's it.
That's the assertion. And the source argues that this, combined with those very broad characteristics we talked about.
The 72 behaviors.
Right. That combination, they say, leads to one of the biggest abuses of power in the history of the world. That's a direct quote from their perspective.
And for the person targeted, what's the supposed result?
They describe it as a bizarre transition. Suddenly they're facing no due process, no day in court, just relentless harassment.
Okay, so if this system is supposedly real, who are the people actually doing the harassing on the ground? The source calls them street-level perpetrators, right?
Yes. And their main tool, according to the source, is something called street theater.
Street theater, like putting on a performance.
Essentially, yeah. It's described as acts in public that seem normal, or maybe just slightly odd, to an onlooker. But they're supposedly designed very specifically to unsettle and disrupt the targeted individual, the one who's been sensitized. A performance just for them.
Can you give some examples the source observed?
Sure. One is called the cell phone conversation. The source describes someone deliberately sitting near them, maybe at a cafe table right in front of them.
Okay.
Then they immediately pull out a cell phone and start talking in an escalated voice, quote, for hooking your attention.
To make sure the target listens in.
Right. And once they think the target is listening, they allegedly start dropping catchphrases,
Yeah.
things relevant only to the TI.
Like what?
Family names, bank account numbers, where you work, that kind of personal stuff.
Wow, they give specific dialogue examples.
They do. They claim to have heard things like references to a John Gibbs, mentions of your accounts, or something like 9 to 10 total appointments. And the source noted the person was speaking awfully loud for private business conversation.
That's one example. Any others?
Another is similar, the public conversation with another person. But here, the source observed that if they started filming the interaction,
Filming the perpetrators.
yeah, the person allegedly using the catchphrases would immediately stop using them and keep glancing nervously at the camera.
Interesting. So filming them changes their behavior.
That's what the source claims. They suggest filming acts as a kind of counter tactic. It supposedly reverses the implantation of uncomfortableness, as they put it, because it exploits the perpetrator's alleged fear of exposure, turns the tables, in a way.
So what's the ultimate goal of all this alleged street theater? Why do it?
According to the source, the alleged endgame is to trigger agoraphobia in the target.
Agoraphobia. That's the anxiety disorder, right? Fear of situations where you feel trapped or helpless makes people avoid public places.
Exactly. Fear of places that might cause panic, embarrassment, situations perceived as unsafe.
That's a really serious claim, to intentionally try and induce a mental health condition.
It is. The source emphasizes how serious they believe this goal is. They claim it's meant to lead to dissociation and isolation. The perpetrators, they allege, are gunning for the victim's total mental collapse, trying to push them into doing something they normally would not do.
Chilling, just trying to break someone down psychologically through these constant weird interactions.
That's the picture the source paints, yes.
Yeah.
Using the everyday environment as a weapon.
Now, the source doesn't just describe this system, they also point out what they see as flaws in it, right?
Yes, they mention two significant flaws, as they call them.
What are they?
The first one we just touched on. exposure by video camera, that documenting these acts can disrupt them.
Okay. And the second flaw?
The second is quite blunt. They call it the mental incapacity of the street-level perpetrator.
What do they mean by that? Are they saying the perpetrators aren't smart?
Pretty much, they're described as no mental giants. The source claims they've succumbed to mind control, calls them brainwashed robots. People who allegedly don't question, don't complain, just obey. They've lost all sense of individuality, according to this view.
That's a harsh assessment, and it feeds into those historical parallels they draw, doesn't it? Back to the Stasi.
It does, explicitly. The source highlights specific Stasi characteristics they see reflected here. Well, the Stasi is spying on its own people using that huge network of citizen informants, a diverse network of citizens earned informants.
Right. And using psychological tactics.
Yes, fighting opposition through both overt and covert measures, including the psychological destruction of victims. That's a direct parallel the source makes.
And they mentioned the color red earlier with sensitization. Does that connect to the Stasi too?
It does, according to the source. They point out that Stasi symbolism included the color red. And they give an example from a video they saw where two people were allegedly wearing red T-shirts and red shoes, claiming it was a deliberate nod to the Stasi.
So tying it all together with these historical echoes.
Yeah. It leads back to their main conclusion, that this whole alleged program represents, in their words again, one of the biggest abuses of power in the history of the world.
It's a very strong claim based on their reported experiences and interpretations.
Extremely strong.
So, for you listening, particularly if you're maybe skeptical or just haven't encountered these ideas before, the individual in our source definitely provides, well, some things to strongly think about and consider.
Absolutely. Regardless of where you stand on the claims themselves, the perspective is laid out very clearly.
And the final thought the source offers is quite provocative, isn't it?
It is. It's a stark warning. Not targeted today, targeted tomorrow.
Leaves you with a chill.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to look into the specific materials the source refers to.
They recommend two things for further research. That Examiner article from 2011 we discussed.
Right.
And also a UC Berkeley study, which the source claims touches on connections between agoraphobia and gang stalking. They highlight these as credible sources from their perspective.
Okay, so resources for anyone wanting to explore the source's references further.